do. I don't have any theme music. I don't have any theme music, but I'm still getting my stuff done. Give me 1 second. I have no theme music. I have no theme music. I have no theme music. I have no theme music or a countdown. I will be there in 30 seconds or so. Just let me do some stuff. Let's see how we're doing. Let's see how we're doing. I'm not even close to set up, but that's okay. I'm such a great songwriter as well. Okay, stop browsing Twitter, Taya, you're live. Okay, I'm just checking. And I will call it Twitter for as long as I live. I don't know what I'm saying. All right, hang on. Hello. Hang on, let me just turn this shit off. Hang on. Turn off the TV. It's distracting. Hello. Let me check the sound. I think we're good. So this is just my little setup, not my main big setup that's back there. I'm not quite ready to stream yet here, but I thought I'd give it a go. It's better than setting that up. Anyway, so give me 1 second. Let me just close down the screen because it's distracting. And we'll go from there. So, hang on. Let me get Notion. So it's been a weird few. Well, I mean, it's been a long time coming, right? Which is that, I think people have been asking me to talk about this gender critical stuff for some time, and I have alluded to it quite a bit, right? Because initially this is part of the reason why I even started doing YouTube, was because I was kind of, it wasn't an area that I was familiar with in terms of, the creation of content. And I wanted to see what was going on and just sort of work through this process. And that was off the back of Jessica Yaniv, okay, back in 2018. Now, the people who were involved, so I think it's really important to emphasize that a lot of the people who were involved in sort of making fun of the fun character that was Jessica Yaniv back in 2018 were good faith, intended to participate, because obviously someone like Yaniv represents quite the gap in law, okay, which is quite the loophole, right? Eric Cartman come to life. It's basically like, well, if you remember the Awesome-O episode of South Park, right, where if you made it so that robots, little boys dressed as cardboard robots, could just go in and sort of, that it was very much like here's a glaring loophole with this that person just represented everything that taken to an extreme, obviously, right, was representative of some of these legal problems that people saw coming down the pipe. Now, those things have since passed. Okay, they've been law for some time, and now it's in a different phase, right? Which is that some of these laws are now being tested in the courts. But so I just want to sort of remind people, especially those who've sort of fallen into this sort of gender critical mindset, okay, hobby, dare I say, pursuit, okay, cult. But those who have fallen into this don't seem to be aware of how the landscape has changed, how many people have fallen away from it because of that changing landscape, and to just sort of give a little warning about how I watched this. This was taken over and co-opted. It was taken from radical feminists, co-opted, and then weaponized by the right. Like, I've been concerned. I mean, concerned is really that's like the extent of it, okay? It's mild concern in the grand context of everything. I mean, if you've got the suffragette fucking shit, calm down. Just fucking calm down. This is not the suffragette movement. Calm the fuck down. It's Twitter, okay? This is how laws work. This is how law operates, how the legal process operates, which was that there's an introduction of a bill. You express those concerns, your concern as a particular group with a particular set of interests, okay? You don't want that bill to pass, or you express some concerns about any gaps or, blind spots that might be, that's part of the public consultation process, okay? That law then, in an ideal democratic process, that law becomes better, okay? So what they do is they use that consultation process to create a better bill that then goes before Parliament for a vote, okay? Then that vote determines whether that bill passes or not. That becomes legislation, okay? Then, after it becomes law, it goes to the courts to be tested and interpreted through case law, okay? Also, in terms of the way that the law, around, especially things around like hate speech and those sorts of things that are on the criminal code, for example, okay? They're only laws if they are enforced or you are arrested, or if, they're not on the books, okay? If they're on the books, it gives the government the discretion to, in egregious abuses or anything like that, okay, it gives them the legal framework in which to deal with that problem, okay? I use the example that here's a fun fact. Technically, did you know that it's illegal to swear in public in most states in Australia, okay? It's actually illegal to swear in public, okay? Ask any Australian about that and they would think that was the funniest thing in the fucking world. How often do you see people arrested for swearing in public? You don't. What you do see is people being, getting around the law and taking the piss and trying to fucking get around it. What it does is it gives the state or the policeman an angle, okay, to work with if that they can't, it's a technicality, so they can get them on a thing in order to, see that justice is done, right? That's how it works. And then you go through the courts and the court determines and balances all of these different laws and different policies and your rights, your state law, your federal law, your fucking human rights law, all of those things is before a judge. In an ideal setting, it's before a judge, okay, who's, knows a thing or two, because guess what? People on Twitter know a little less than a judge, okay? But then if you don't like it, you can appeal that, okay? And if you don't like it again, you can appeal it again. That's how it works. It takes time to determine things like that, where there's rights, competing things, competing rights. If you are pro-democracy, you are pro that process. And if you are not authoritarian and you are pro-democracy, then you will let that process fucking unfold. Now, to go back to Jessica Yaniv, what I saw was early in that consultation process, people being harassed, women being harassed, women not being allowed to be given a fair voice in that consultation process. That is a very important part of the process. How many of you know that you actually have a say in every fucking law that's passed? The law that's passed. Sorry, I misspoke there, okay? How many of you know this? Get your basics down. Did you know that there's a whole bunch of websites dedicated to you being able to write a submission on a certain law or certain policy? There's a certain appeals process. There's the ombudsman. There's, all of those things, okay? There's all those mechanisms available to you that aren't Twitter. Okay, let me just get that off my chest. That aren't harassing people on Twitter. Those are separate fucking things and separate fucking processes. Okay? Arrest me. I just swore in public. That's not how it works. Okay? The shades of grey. Like one of the things that I love about the criminal code, right, is that you'd be amazed what's actually illegal and why those laws exist and why they are there. Did you know that it's illegal to take seagull poo from the beach? Not that anyone fucking would, but technically, on a legal technicality, it is illegal, okay, to remove seagull poo from let's say you're off having fish and chips in Fremantle and a seagull shits on the table and you're like, I love that. I'm going to scrape that and I'm going to remove that. Okay. That is actually illegal under the Western Australian Criminal Code. And you know why that exists? Why the law exists? It's not to arrest people for fucking around with seagull poo. If that's your kind of thing, no one's going to arrest you. No one's going to judge you. Do you know what it is? It's because of guano. And guano, an island off Western Australia that was contested back in, don't quote me on the dates, but back in the 1800s or so, the Americans were showing up to like harvest our guano. Okay, and that was contested. But then what happened with that law was that law became a precedent for other laws. So that law remains in place. Okay, so the way that you need to, if you are talking about any kind of small sliver of legal like fact on policy or anything, not on Twitter, which is a whole other thing, which is that it's pointless, not on Twitter, which is that laws don't operate in a vacuum. Things do not operate in your little fucking vacuum. If you are thinking about democracy and you are thinking about, pluralism and actually being and showing up and being a decent fucking citizen, okay, you will take the time to learn how laws are made, how laws are implemented, how laws are policed, the process, even if they are. I'm sorry, but, that's why I would defend someone like Maya Festeda and even, dare I say, Jessica Yaniv. Jessica Yaniv, if you remember, tested the law, okay? And ultimately it wasn't ruled in their favour, okay? That's how it works. That's how democracy works. If you are advocating for anything that replaces, circumvents that process, it might be yucky, okay? You might not like it. It might take 10 years. Jessica Yaniv was what, 2018? When did they get the ruling? 2019, something like that, okay? It takes a long time, but it works out, okay? And that's in Canada. So you've got, Jessica Yaniv took the piss. They tested the law. Now they've got the law. If you understand how the legal system actually operates, all right, which is, go back to the 1500s, okay, around things like seditious libel, okay, things like blasphemy laws, the history of these things, okay. I mean, I was going to focus more on the psychology stuff in a minute, right? But I'll just go into it. I always go on a fucking tangent. But learn about the history of how laws have sort of evolved over time. Yes, okay, colonialism, patriarchy, all that. But they're just words. They're words, okay? Amongst that, we've got this ebb and flow and process that, it isn't perfect by any fucking stretch, okay? A lot of people have been left out, including women, okay? A lot of people have been left out. I want to emphasize that. But the process itself, and I'm not talking about the process of showing up and being polite and putting on a bow tie. Fuck that. Fuck those cunts. I'm saying the process, a collective commitment to a democratic, pluralist process, okay? That is the most marvelous thing that fucking, all these people talking about the West, okay? They're talking shit, okay? The people talking, there is nobody more idealistic than me when it comes to the democratic process, okay? And that's why I get pissed off with people claiming that socialism isn't democratic, because it is, okay, it is. You've had obviously things go off the rails, but that's sort of, there's other things there, okay. Capitalism goes off the rails, things go off the rails because humans are the way that they are, okay. But when you actually commit to this, if we can collectively, regardless of the issue that we believe in or the issue that we feel strongly about, collectively commit to that fair process, those fair rules, that social contract, that we will work together and we will, accept the vote. Okay? We will accept the vote regardless, okay? Like, obviously there's lots to figure out there. There's a lot underneath that. But at the baseline, if you're not democratic in your thinking, then you're not participating in the political process, especially on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck, okay? Dead naming X. Joked about that the other day. I was like, the people who fucking spent the last 10 years policing dead names are now fucking... So anyway, and then my son was like, oh my God, that's not... And then he pretended to be like 2017. Are you equating the experience of Elon Musk with the pain of... It's like, you fucking fuck off. Things have changed. The landscape has changed. You can joke about things. Everyone knows that these people are lunatics. Everyone knows that the far right are fucking lunatics too. We knew that beforehand, and no one will listen. So anyway, I get back to my thing on righteous cruelty. Right, it's called righteous cruelty. I called it righteous cruelty because that's actually the phrase that I'm using for an essay that I'm writing about this. Like, generally, it's a general concept, because I think you need to understand what righteousness does to your psyche. Okay. And I think righteous cruelty is a lot more engaging than, things like the de-individuation and the social identity. I'm not trying to just there is something to be said for guru culture, which is that they come up with terms that are more evocative, more persuasive, and help you to distill a number of sort of academic concepts into one, which is righteous cruelty. Which is when you, and this is a personal development thing, nothing to do with anyone else. And this is the part that you can control, which is the individual, your individual response. And my goal is to educate you, of course, because I'm a teacher. But my goal has always been to try to get to the individual, because to persuade you to think, to persuade you to learn how stuff works, to persuade you to change the way that you operate, to persuade you into, maybe thinking that it's worth the effort to, work on yourself a bit more and to be aware of stuff. And I'm in no position to really preach anything because, I fuck up every day. Obviously I, was a little too reactive to this bullshit, but at the end of the day, I'm in that constant conflict between communicating what I'm going through, okay, so that I can teach people and show people and sort of give people a teachable moment, and using myself as that crash test dummy, right? And my own sort of reactivity. So, I can sit back and laugh at this sort of gender critical pylon that I experienced the last couple of days. But, also it can look like I'm like reacting when I'm not. I'm just taking it as a teachable moment. For others that might not have the sort of the tools to deal with it, right? Like for me, I didn't even see most of it. I just heard that I thought, radio, beast, that shit, right? It's like, okay, off you go, adults. Way to go. You're like, look at you activisting, being an activist. Good on you. Look at you having not grown or evolved in any way in 5 years. Congratulations. Also, I recruited half you fucks. So, accidentally. And that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about what 2018 and why the landscape shifted, but also around the behaviours. Okay, I'm not going to take too long. I hope. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. But I am just going to skim over it, right? I have actually got a whole bunch of content down the pipe on this, but this is sort of leading into the course for influencers and so how you can start thinking more about how you particularly again, you can't reach things at the big level. You can reach people at the individual level, which is to think about how you are responding. Think about what forces are sort of competing to get you to do things that you wouldn't necessarily, consent to doing, to convince you to sort of, hang on. I don't even know if the chat, hang on. If people are interacting, then one sec. Am I even streaming? Oh, there are chats. Okay. Sorry, I actually, hang on just 1 second. I didn't realize there were no chats. Hang on a sec. Let me just get that up. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Because then I can see it. It is good, actually, when I can chat without chatting. Ah, there we go. Okay. Jeez, get fucked, man. Hang on a second. Sorry, thank you for your patience with this stuff. I actually like being able to stream on the desk. It's good. So Paul's yes, please. Here you go. Paul's making me coffee. Okay, so back to it. So you can reach the individual on this stuff. Okay. Let me just check the chat. Are we coming up? Chat, motherfuckers. Where'd it go? I closed it, dickhead. Did I? Hang on. Sorry for wasting time, everyone. Here we go. Everyone. All 5 of you. Yeah. But 5's better than 0. Chat. Restream. Okay. 1 second. All right. Oh, yeah, it's probably because I'm knocking the desk. There are, yeah, there are a few, but it's fine. So, it's because I'm knocking the desk. That's going to happen because I get animated and stuff. But yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the. I would also like to just specifically shout out Matt, who surprised me with a new computer, which is amazing. So thank you. I appreciate it. I needed a little bit of motivation because I was losing it, because a lot of it, this stuff is hard going. Trying to get reach and support when you feel like what you're doing is, the people who you most need to reach are least interested. Like a lot of this stuff is ultimately trying to, reach people in a cult. Again, I'm not, I say cult, they're micro cults. They're not like full blown cults, but they're heading in that direction too, right? Political cults are a thing, and televangelism in particular uses a lot of cult-like strategies. And this is the problem with influencers in general, which is that you need to be aware of this tendency to form cults. And, I haven't come out of nowhere here, which is that I'm at the end of a lot of the work that I've done, which is that I'm not trying to reach, you can't solve the big stuff. The big stuff's happening. Like I was saying about, how laws are made. It's going to take 10 years to clarify this stuff. But at the end of the day, this is about democratic participation. Ultimately, it comes down to media literacy, civic education, so knowing how laws are made, how laws are passed, how laws interpreted, how this machine works. And honestly, once you have an appreciation for that, okay, I keep coming back to this, which is I want people to know, without this narcissist, this search for meaning, okay, that people are lacking at the moment. This search for meaning, sort of going into these cults, these these funnels where, Andrew Tate and these Pearl Davis and, all of these sort of political online influencer places, Tim Pool, those places. The thing that makes people vulnerable to these sorts of communities is the fact that you're searching for meaning, okay? And what I want to do, and I think a big part of what I keep coming back to, and especially women, I think women who fall into, it's not a coincidence that women who fall into this that there's a Venn diagram, okay, between women who bully women on motherhood forums or women forums and women who bully like, trans activists and other women and people online. That's pretty much a circle, okay? And it's not a coincidence that as soon as sort of the mumsnetters moved in and started bullying people and that this went in this direction, right? I have come up against that stuff for years and years and years, so it doesn't bother me. But I do take exception to the bullying of sort of young mums and young women who are still trying to find their place in the world, because I also happen to know that the people on those forums they're bored. They don't have meaning. They don't like, their job is to martyr themselves, okay? I'm a mother. Therefore I'm a martyr. Being a mother is my only existence, even though deep down I fucking resent it, okay? And that's why they bully women who work. It's why they bully women who formula feed. It's why they bully women for making any kind of decision that actually is different to theirs, which is because they're not honest with themselves about motherhood and being a wife, and they are fucking miserable, okay? And women like me have always existed like right in their face as something that they could have been, or if they were brave enough. And that's why, this is a sort of a digression, but I don't like talking about this stuff out of respect for my children, obviously, but I've been through a divorce, okay? I didn't have residential care of my children, okay, because I was the full-time worker and my husband was injured, and it made sense at the time for him to be the full-time carer. That, of course, that dynamic shifted and, things got ugly and it was a naive arrangement. But the shit that I copped from other women, okay, about not being the carer, it came from a place of, that came from, I could tell where it was coming from, which was that they weren't brave enough to make that decision. And people like me sit in people's dissonance and people's. I annoy people, and I know why I annoy people. I annoy people because I am too smart for my own good and too mouthy, and I also know that I'm arrogant. And when I say smart, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that people don't like a smart ass. Okay, I get it. They don't like a know-it-all. Okay, I get that. I've learnt that the hard way. They don't like people who don't have to work hard to to do things. But women don't like women who don't martyr themselves for men and their children. They can't stand it, because you sit there and it's like women who have, it's really funny. Women who, and it's the same thing, women who don't, there's something funny about, again, I'm not generalizing about women. I'm just saying there seems to be a relational, in terms of relational, what threatens women in terms of our, social roles, how we're socialized to see other women as threats, which is that another woman's choices, right, seem to be a judgment of your choices. And it's like, no, if you're democratic like me and you're libertarian and you're like, okay, my choices are I want the ability to make my choices for me and my children, because I know my children and I know my circumstances, okay, and I make the decision. It's none of your fucking business. The only time it becomes my business is if it hurts my children, or there's a broader societal problem or whatever, right? And the only reason I got involved in this fucking gender, whatever I don't like that word. I'm going to explain what it is in a second. And I'm going to explain those little differences very quickly, because a lot of people are very confused. I've seen some lefty friends of mine saying, calling people TERF and stuff like that. And I go, that's not fair either. Okay. Because I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to do the right thing. And if people would fucking stop reacting and start listening to what I've got to say, I think you'd find that you might actually be more effective as an activist, and you might actually be thinking better, and you might be happier as well, okay? Because I've gone through this. People forget that I went down this rabbit hole. I know every fucking cul-de-sac that exists, and I'm sitting here and I've committed to myself to try and save people from it. And I'm not saying that I'm, all things to all people and I'm capable of that, but I'm in good faith and I'm trying my best, okay? So anyway, but I also will use I'm not going to use pronouns, okay, preferred pronouns. I have trans friends who I respect immensely and love immensely, and I always have in the back of my mind, would anything that I say fuck with their mental health? I'm always conscious of that. And the answer is I would never in a million years deliberately misgender anybody, okay, as much as we make jokes about it, because I differentiate, first of all, between Twitter and fucking anything, and second of all, between super online, weird-ass, brain-melted fucking lefties and the real world, okay? We can joke about idiots online who are policing everyone's words and misgendering, okay? But I'm not going to sit there and misgender people who are in front of me, because I actually care about people and I don't want to hurt people, and I'm not an asshole, okay? And, you know, this is what I find very weird about the gender critical movement, is that they're basically the same coin of these. This is like, I think this is that far right content factory, and it has a particular MO and a particular behavior. Once you detach the belief, okay, and this is something with cult studies, right? In cult studies, it is really important when trying to identify a cult, especially a destructive cult, okay? There's different types of cults, but a destructive cult, okay? Read Stephen Hassan's book on this, is to separate the belief from the behavior. Because a lot of cults, what they do is they hide behind a belief that is true. So Scientology, for example, has some stuff around, you know, psychiatry and the DSM and, you know, the psychology. I would say that I align a lot with Scientology's critique of psychiatry. Okay, for example, not so simplistically, but I think that I would align with L. Ron Hubbard on psychiatry. Okay, I would align with you know, Mormons on not drinking alcohol because I think it's bad for you. I would align with gender criticals on the fact that biological sex is true. I would, you know, a thing also. But this is the big straw man, which is this idea that biological sex is not a factor in all of these things. When I talk about the policy people who actually go, of course that's true. Most people are on board with, of course, that's true. You're having a Twitter argument in your head, okay, about this stuff. Most people are just sorting stuff out, right? But the thing about cults, okay, actually there is there's a documentary on Netflix at the moment, 6-parter about cults, about Jim Jordan and, Jim Jones and, you know, Charles Manson and all those sorts of things. And you'll see that what they did, like, I would politically align with Jim Jones on building a commune. Okay. But what cults do is they behave in a certain way. So what cults do is behave in a certain way. It's got nothing to do with the belief. And the thing about the way that cults sort of deny that they're a cult is to say Scientology is just about self-improvement. Don't you like self-improvement? Don't you just want to be happy? Don't you believe in Christ? Don't you believe in temperance? Don't you believe? And this is the thing that's like, I think, a blind spot, especially for single issue activists. And this is what happened with prohibition. Sorry, I've got the shadow, it's driving me nuts. Prohibition in the US with radical feminists and the Christian conservatives. Look up the history there, which is that when you are a single issue activist, okay, you will attach yourself to anybody who agrees with you on this issue at the expense of everything else, okay? That is also how cults are created, and that is also how you can fall into something like agreeing for an authoritarian policy such as prohibition. Okay. Now, the reasons that radfems, supported the temperance movement and prohibition, all that sort of stuff, right, was because of domestic violence. So they didn't like husbands coming home and getting drunk and all of that sort of stuff, right? They didn't actually, they didn't do it because they were wanting to be authoritarian. They did it because they wanted to protect women. Sound familiar? Okay, but the end result was an authoritarian policy that didn't work and was ineffective. Do you see where I'm going with this? Okay. But with a cult, A cult has this thing where this is why I keep saying that this stuff is getting culty, okay? There were people who just, most people, I can think of quite a few actually, who wrote for Feminist Current, okay? They have, they were on board and making fun of Yaniv. They were, fully, like me, thought it was ridiculous. I put my hand up and said, the fact that Megan Murphy's been banned, she has something to say. I think that that's a terrible precedent, which is that it's Twitter, but that it needs to be out there and on the open and all that. I didn't agree. Never, ever did I agree with why she got banned. And I think that needs to be noted, which is that I defended Megan Murphy being banned from Twitter, and subsequently told Trigonometry about Megan Murphy, informed a bunch of people and got her on things, introduced people to her, okay, on the basis of the fact that even if I didn't agree with what she said, I think that the position needed some time in the sun so that it could be figured out between those two groups as part of a healthy democratic process, as part of pluralism, that I would do what I could do. I would, use whatever tools at my disposal to help that process move forward as quickly as possible and have as many voices so that the law was better, okay? That was always the intention. Jessica Yaniv was ridiculous. This is the other part. This is the devil brain, angel devil shoulder of Taya, right? The devil shoulder was, I'm a fucking smartass. This is Eric come to life. This is Twitter. Let's meme this shit because it's funny, okay? Never once did I reply to Yaniv. Never once did I misgender Yaniv. Actually, I may have done it in, I still say, if you have an objection to it, I just try to find a creative way around. If you really object to using her or whatever, then you can be more creative and just use their name or whatever. You can, there's ways around that, right? I just usually found creative ways around it. Rather than being, feeling, like I needed to say her for someone like Yaniv, who is obviously a predator and obviously taking the piss, right? That said, my views have evolved on that, which is the fact that it's not me. I don't get to determine. The fact that Yaniv is a joke and a parody and Eric Cartman come to life doesn't make me the arbiter of these things, okay? So it's not my decision, it's not my call, okay? And it just also doesn't work because you just look like a dickhead. So, but anyway, so there was that. But people started to move away because they started to see this behaviour, the bullying, and Kelly J. Keane was a big part of that. She came out, I remember, and people think that I just fucking came down in the last shower and wasn't, pulling levers and shit in the background and helping in the background an awful lot, right? Which was doing what I could because I wanted to make sure that the process was fair. That was it, just fairness, democratic. I've always come in as I'm pro-democracy, which I find hilarious because the fascist states of America have decided that people like me are the antithesis of democracy. It's like, yeah, okay. That. But I'm just saying generally, I am pro-pluralism, pro-democracy, and that means as many voices get heard as early on as possible so that you don't pass shitty laws that can be abused by bad governments, right? That was a fundamental thing, which is that, I thought this was a blind spot because it was a blind spot for me, okay? I was like, oh, shit, I hadn't thought of it that way. Have you been following this story? It's fucking crazy. And we might want to look at that. And my first test of that was when I actually approached, because, obviously I know people and journalists and stuff. And it was only the chilling that I'd noticed around it that I was like, what the fuck? This is obvious. You need to sort this out. I talked to my journalists. And again, at a time when I think they thought that I'd lost my marbles because I was talking about some super niche viral content on Twitter, right? that hadn't yet hit. But then it did. Obviously, it hit Victoria and this discussion. And it's always just been about the fact that women were being bullied and harassed and prevented from stating their case. Okay? And that case is what I agree with. The only thing that I agree with is the fact that they need to be heard and they have a fucking point. That's it. Inclusion in the process. Real inclusion. Funny that, huh? So, and what I saw was just that process being subverted and like manipulated, like from whatever, right? But Kelly J. Keane came out, and I didn't agree with her at the time when she was doing that trigonometry interview, and I was working with them, right? And I was, well, not working with them. I was watching, and I was kind of like, okay, who are these people? Have I been wrong about these people? All right, let's help them out. I think that they're saying the right things. Let's, so I did them a website, something that I, obviously, regret because they didn't make good on their side of the deal, right? He thinks that he paid me for a website. He gave me $250. Okay, thanks, mate. I don't think you realise what these things cost. Anyway, but anyway, that's a whole other. But that's stupid. I don't get into the weeds on this stuff. It's silly. It was, but at the time, I still didn't agree with the misgendering. I just don't. I don't think it's productive. First of all, okay, there's several reasons why it's a bad idea, okay? First of all, people shut down. If you're trying to persuade people, okay, and you're not going to, anyone who thinks that you're being rude or impolite, as someone who is quite rude and quite fucking impolite a lot, I know when shutters go down, okay? I know when that, yes, that clickbait works to an extent, okay? Clickbait works on clickbait people. Clickbait works on people who already don't read the headlines. Already don't read the article. They're TikTok people, okay? There's a reason why I'm not on TikTok. It's because I'm not a TikTok fucking person and I don't want TikTok brain people in my audience, okay? And unfortunately, that's a growing fucking cohort who have too much power, right? But, the comment section will love it. The peanut gallery will love it. That's what populism is. But the people who are actually in the business of paying attention to, the law and writing law and dealing with these things and running things, they read beyond the clickbait, okay? So the misgendering, I see the misgendering as content clickbait, okay? Yes, it's technically true. This is why it's inherently attached to the far right, because it's, again, the behavior that we're talking about, not the belief. And the behavior is to quibble over like facts that no one actually, argue with things you've made up, okay? Cherry pick examples, and extrapolate that to, 8 billion people living in 100 and what, how many countries there are now, 180 something, I don't know, states, but, extrapolate that to the whole world and make it an existential threat, okay? Fixate on that issue at the expense of every other issue, and many of those issues may actually, if you zoom out, may actually, you may actually be helping and be counterproductive, okay, which is that thing about gender criticals, which is voting for, the LNP or One Nation or that. That's like, well, okay, good. So healthcare, I've done this video before, healthcare, aged care, childcare, education, welfare, housing, those things don't affect women. But your made up argument over a question of law that will be clarified in the courts over it's a matter of proportion. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. There is no chat on screen. I can't get it to work. I can't, yeah. But it's just, it's very frustrating. Okay, hang on. Because basically, it's been coming for a long time, okay, which is that I think you can reach the individual, okay? You can reach individuals because I believe that individual people are really well-intentioned, good people. You know, like most people don't care about politics. Most people have friends and family and go about their lives and don't talk about politics. Okay. If you're one of those people who alienates people and fights with people and starts shit over politics, they're probably avoiding you. Okay. I know that because I'm the person who cares about politics in my family. I'm the one with the politics degree. The only time I talk about politics in my social settings and family and stuff is when they ask me a question about how shit works. That's how it works. Okay. And people aren't, you know, they're not horrible people. They're just not, they don't care. Okay. And the fact that you know, like you can reach people at a basic level if you meet them where they're at, understand where they're coming from. Okay. And like I said, a lot of my work is trying to figure out how you can get people. This is a lifelong thing that, like, you know, hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people before me have, tried, and it's kind of like it's almost like the meaning of life. How do you get people engaged to realize how powerful they are? Okay, to realize that they actually do have power, and that they're not powerless, and that the world isn't fucked. Okay, and to get them to think and to learn and to be curious. How do you do that? How do you, day one, lesson one, is that people are apathetic when it comes to politics. They only get their information from sound bites, right? At the time it was sound bites, now it's headlines, okay, and tweets. They only, most people don't know how things work. Those are rules of thumb when it comes to political science, particularly, right? How do you get people interested enough to engage in, part of the reason why we have compulsory voting in Australia is because the theory behind that is that it at least makes people think about it for a few weeks every few years about, their vote, and that they can participate. If they didn't have that, they wouldn't. You end up with something like America, where more people don't vote than vote for a major party. Okay. Okay, so 40% of people don't vote. Non-voters are the biggest voting bloc in the United States. And their needs, obviously, as you can see, go unrepresented. But so for better or worse, I will always defend One Nation's right to exist, because they represent a lot of fucking Australians who fucking, they need to exist. Same thing with Greens. The Greens have gone to shit. They used to actually be lefty activists, but they've gone since Bob Brown left, they've gone sort of, latte sipping, bougie obstructionist. They're basically, conservatives now. They're like basically teals with a different, slightly, anyway, they should just join with the teals at this point, right? Tree Tories. Love that. But, getting people to, yeah. Anyway, I can't deal with it. Sorry. Yeah, so, a lot of the people have fallen away. And so let me just quickly explain the difference between, people think that there is a misrepresentation here. And this is, again, part of that thing, which is with us or against us bullshit. That's a right-wing view as well. Because, the left are very much about, what's right for everyone, even people you don't like. That is a 101 thing with socialism, is that, read Helen Razor's book, which is, freedom for all, even fuckwits, okay? Everyone, not just you and your mates, okay? Everyone. That is a socialism 101, okay? If you know your marks, you know that that's about everyone having a go, even people you don't fucking like, okay? Start there. You don't have to like people. You have to be, but you'd have to support their right to participate. Otherwise, you're not democratic. You're authoritarian. You think that your way is the right way. That's authoritarian. Okay. If you think you are more your opinion matters more than someone else's, that's authoritarian. Okay. I promote democracy, and that's it. So anyway, it's anti-democratic. So anyway, there's again, but the quibbling is the thing where, people will, I'm sure that if I had a bigger, obviously more people watching, there'd be some dude in my chat quibbling over authoritarianism versus totalism versus dictatorship versus military dictatorship versus that. Don't care. I'm trying to, and this is the problem, you need to simplify language down. But these guys, their whole MO is to quibble online and accomplish nothing. Okay? Who cares? That's been the whole MO of US university departments, where they basically used this over-analysis, deconstruction as what words mean, rewrite words, talking about words, who's using the right words, who's using the wrong words, what are the words? Oh my God, they're not using the correct word for the thing. So let's not bother to try to find their intention, or that they're trying to communicate to an audience who doesn't understand all of these basic, all of these complex terms. What we're going to do is quibble over the words and accomplish fuck all. Okay, that's where this came from. Okay, we're going to quibble over the word woman. Radfems went, you what, cunt? No. Okay. Americans being sensitive over words, they didn't want the word sex on fucking forms, so they replaced it with gender. Gender became which is a different concept, okay? Gender is more a set of social roles. But the Americans fucked it up for everybody, as per fucking usual, with their word games and their Darvo and their fucking little games of fucking, quibbles. Okay, most people know that biological sex is different to gender identity. This is not difficult. Okay? But they both exist. And so, and that's where, the gender critical's reducing it down to fucking one little fact, which is basically, well, yeah, Scientology technically says something true. Okay? The trans activist people, technically, gender identity is real and gender dysphoria is real and painful, and you need fewer gatekeepers, and the far right are a threat. Valid criticism. Still a cult. They're different things, okay? It's not the belief, it is the behavior. It is how you respond when someone disagrees with you. It is how you respond to critique. It is how you respond to minor differences of opinion. It is also whether you are consistent with your values. Okay, so the gender critical crew, I separate those. First of all, there's TERFs, okay? TERF is a slur used to incite violence online. I don't use it, okay? That was originally used to describe sort of radical feminist analysis that, it's analysis. Who cares, okay? Which is, in a democracy, everyone's allowed to analyze shit. That's the point. Okay, it's basically, Andrea Dworkin sort of school of thought where, men dressing up as women, is patriarchal in its essence, and that therefore, trans women are men, okay, as a premise, okay, and as biological men, they have a set of privileges and inborn sort of, benefits of being a man, and especially if you go through male puberty and all those things, you're socialized to be male. Even if you transition, all that, you will still never have that full female experience, okay? I'd argue that trans women get the full female experience by these fucking gender criticals being harassed 24/7. But anyway, that's a side point. But then you've got radical feminists, okay? So radical feminists is the sort of, the actual analysis, okay? TERF is sort of been co-opted to be used to threaten and, you'll see fuck TERFs and all that sort of stuff, right? That's an internet thing that has been used like suppressive person in Scientology, right? Or, shun the non-believer, that sort of shit. That's just a fair game kind of call for anyone who sort of even deviated from sort of that gender stuff online, that sort of woke shit that sort of piqued my interest initially, okay, which was that black and white thinking, being cancelled over the sort of smallest things, that sort of cult-like behavior. That's a cult, okay. That is one cult. Then you've got on the other side, then you've got this gender critical thing. Now, I'm generalizing. There's a lot of fucking dynamics there as well, but gender critical came from when the right took over this. This was a wholly radical feminist analysis and a conflict between radical feminists and trans rights activists online, through sort of, Megan Murphy, Bill C-16, all that sort of stuff. Gender critical sort of hit when Jordan Peterson sort of got cancelled. Nice cancellation. I wish I could get paid. I wish I could get cancelled like that. Fuck me. Turns out to be quite lucrative. But anyway, you lose your marbles. But anyway, so that's where you found that sort of that alignment, right, between, I would argue he's always been conservative, but, like that alliance between sort of Megan Murphy and Jordan Peterson and various other sort of, your far left, your sort of rad femme. I would argue that Megan Murphy was never really that much of a socialist because you can't drift right if you are, but whatever. Okay, so that's quibbles. But, she would sort of do that traditional rad femme analysis, right? And then she sort of found strange bedfellows with people like Jordan Peterson. Now, what you would find was that there were people who had attached themselves to the anti-feminist movement through Jordan Peterson. So you had, like your bog standard, I'm just trying to think, your IDW types, right? Your fucking Joe Rogan and blah, 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 trigonometry, just trying to think of them all. Other fucking, But then you found sort of like Brett Weinstein, people like that, right? That whole IDW fucking thing. And you found that sort of James Lindsay initially, that sort of thing. And what you found that sort of weird, strange bedfellows, but these guys would not obviously say that they were feminists. Okay, so gender critical came out of it, and I opposed it in the beginning because my politics has never been against anything. My politics is for things. Okay, my whole politics is for things, not fighting things. And that's another thing where you can talk to the individual and reach the individual to say, make your politics for something, not against things. Okay, because that's bad for you. It's bad for your mental health. Think about what you want. There's no point just complaining all the time if you don't have a solution. Okay, like when we've got TV shows and we're watching things and we run out of things to watch and Paul suggests something and I have a set of rule where I go, if I don't have any other alternative, then I have to. I can't say no to everything and not present a solution. Your politics should be informed by things that you are for, okay, not anti. So gender critical on its premise is anti-gender. It's like, it's it was going to head in this direction. But basically gender critical became this umbrella for, you had these sort of Facebook groups start to form, like the Coalition for Biological Reality and these other things that started to be sort of taken over by Christian conservatives, okay? And so then you had all these rad femmes sort of made friends, and there was this melting pot of people around this issue calling themselves gender critical, but it was over time very much co-opted by the far right. So you saw the day. I watched this happen. Like, this was before even, like, Tim Pool was still wasn't even talking about this issue. Trigonometry wasn't talking about this issue. Nobody was. The only people that were kind of diving into it were sort of IDW types. But even Joe Rogan, like, wasn't doing this sort of stuff. Like when this issue, But honestly, they took wind. They caught wind and they fucking ran with it. Okay, so that's what you need. But they called themselves gender critical because they didn't want to attach themselves to feminism because they were fundamentally squeamish and anti-feminist. Okay, so gender critical, if you use that term, it means, first of all, you're single issue, okay, which means that you're not going to get anywhere, okay? You're not going to get anywhere, okay? Your politics is against things, which is not a very mentally healthy. So you're predisposed to very unhinged thinking to begin with because your whole worldview is about fighting a thing rather than fighting for, like working towards something. It was anti-feminist in its outset, okay, because of to appease the feelings of conservative women who didn't feel comfortable with feminism, and you're seeing that now. You're seeing that with this unhinged trad wife fucking shit and all this bullshit where talking about how, all this bullshit that Kelly J. Keane is coming out with that's sort of, little bit fucking evangelical Christian in its face, right? But it's funny though, isn't it? Because rad femme like me agrees with him on some things and not on others. I think you'll find that I agree with like the left-wing gender critical analysis more than most, yet I have been subjected to a dogpiling versus Matt Walsh or Trigonometry, who are anti-feminist. They started out as anti-feminist. In one of our meetings, they were sitting there just like piling on feminists, and I said, I am one, right? Oh, really? They're edgelord internet bros, and they just go where the money and clicks are, right? But they're sort of anti-feminist, not even very good ones, but they come from that crew. But they need a chance. You need to hear them out. They're there to defend Matt Walsh in the mentions. Not there for me, are they? And that should tell you everything that you need to know. Because again, these women don't like women like me because I represent something that, deep down threatens their decisions in life for whatever fucking reason. Okay. Because I'm a whole person who's done the work, who knows who I am, and I'm smart and I'm mouthy and I make decisions they don't like, and I don't center my children in my whole search for meaning. I love my children. They're great, but they're not my fucking center of my identity. It's like, okay, well, no, I'm a separate person from my husband and kids. Sorry. I have a brain I want to use. My apologies. But it's just like, but this is the problem, which is that people forget the history of how these things sort of converged and converged and where they started. And so the gender critical, right? So gender critical was also just the name of a subreddit. Okay, so it actually was just it was the name of, and it became So anyway, this was before. So gender critical was largely something that was a subreddit for radfems. Okay, and there's that whole fucking history around the Handmaid's Tale subreddit, which is hilarious. But then it got overtaken by the right and turned into, it sort of had the feminist teeth taken out of it. And that's what you're seeing at the moment, is this like anti-feminism backlash with people that feminists are defending while attacking women like me. Because I choose, and always have, I just want it on the record. I've always been a trans ally. I actually consider myself fighting for trans rights in the right way, not using trans people as a football. You're seeing them as people and individuals who need, support, like any, who need those things. Who, gender dysphoria sounds fucking horrible, okay? And I'm sorry, but if you think it's not real, then you're full of shit, because gender dysphoria is as real as ADHD or autism, okay? So when you're mouthing off about gender dysphoria not being real and anorexia and their delusions, you're a cunt, because you're telling me that my ADHD that isn't real. You're telling people who raise autistic children that their autism isn't real. These things manifest as symptoms. They are syndromes with complex causes. So comparing anorexia to gender dysphoria, the answer is they're different syndromes. Shut the fuck up. Different syndromes with different treatments. Shut the fuck up. You don't know. And so I've always been centered around the individual. I can persuade the individual. People are so focused on complaining about things they can't change, whilst not focusing on the individual contribution that they make on a daily basis to people's mental health, the overall health of a platform, right? That's what happened with the last stream that I did, where I talked about this person who's been ruining platforms for the fun of it. It's like, well, look at you go. Let's look at the individual, shall we? And I thought the right liked individualism. Well, here you go. You're a cunt. You're selfish. You wreck things. Okay? You're not participating in good faith. Why should I bother with you? Okay? I'm going to focus on the people who do want to change, who do want to do incremental, not buy a t-shirt. Okay? Not fund billboards for fucking, things that are not just the meaning. Oh, it's just the word. No, it's not. You know what you're doing. It is not just a word. Okay? Cunt is just a word too. And I might get a billboard that says Kelly J. Keane is a cunt. How do you like that? It's just words. And it's true. You get me? It's not just words, and you know it. Scientology. Oh, it's just about personal improvement. Yeah, okay. It's technically true. That's a cult. If you bully people on behalf of an idea, it's a cult. If you can't handle the dissonance when someone is saying something perfectly reasonable but is a difference of opinion and can actually argue it, you're in a cult. If you're worshipping a leader, it's a fucking cult. You with me? Anyway, so what can you do? Think about how your account is used, how you use it, okay? Lots of anonymous people right now in my mentions telling, okay, so what happened? Sorry, I need to tell you what happened. I'm sick of this fucking Dylan Mulvaney bullshit, okay? It was too far. It was over the top. It was horrific. And as far as I'm concerned, Dylan Mulvaney handled herself with class. And given the horrible shit that she's been subjected to, fuck it. Okay, saw Dylan Mulvaney trending again. Okay, on Twitter, and I just said, "Oh, for fuck's sake, leave her alone." That was enough to have given me a pile-on. I mean, it wasn't that huge a pile, but I haven't checked. It might be more. But I also noticed that there's bookmarks. And this is something that I've noticed for some time now. And again, because they think I'm an idiot, they're bookmarking it so they can share it in their private little groups, right? I'm not stupid because I didn't say anything worth bookmarking, okay? Someone's collecting receipts and tweets. They're using that feature to collect tweets. I'm not an idiot, okay? I may be many things, not an idiot. I also, like I said in the last stream, have fucking tentacles everywhere, and I know that these things are going on. And so they're running these harassment channels. So they've decided to go after me today. Okay, cool, all right. Let's take it as an opportunity to nudge some of them and make them think about their own behaviour. Okay, so I just went and roasted them. And, like most people will stay quiet. Most reasonable people see anyone who knows me knows what I'm doing, okay? They know that I'm trying to persuade and pull people back from fucking brink. But, they will, they'll attack you, right? And I just fucking selectively quote tweet and also, selectively educate and say, okay, this is the difference between, don't call people TERFs. So I'll enter the debate and because I've got friends across everything. So, one of my friends, she's a good sort. She said, something about someone being a TERF, and I took the opportunity to go, no, don't use that because it's, obviously been used in this way. And she went, oh, okay, I didn't know. Most people don't know. Okay. And that's for both sides. People don't know or care about this shit. I don't barely care. It's only because I think that, there's more good to be done than harm that I don't anyway, whatever. It's only because it intersects with what I actually want to do that I fucking feel like I have to talk about it, which is basic civic literacy, how laws are made, educating people on influences and how they can exploit you and your, various biases to rob you of your hard-earned money, and how algorithms can be manipulated to get you to vote in a way that's against your interests. That's all I care about. And this issue has it all, okay? And you're all losing. But anyway, so... But basically, so my mistake was not calling out the bullying. No one was mad about the fact that, Dylan Mulvaney was trending again and that they were inciting another fucking pile-on, okay? Nobody was mad about that. What they were mad about was me saying her. And I was like, get fucked. I've always done that, first of all. Second of all, this idea, I found it very strange, somehow I've been kicked out of the group or they've lost me. Apparently I've been lost. I am a fallen one. How is that not a cult? How is that not a cult? When someone, remember, this is a group of people who think that Matt Walsh, is an ally because they disagree with him on some things like women shouldn't have abortions. Women should be in the kitchen. He's a fucking literally oh no, hear him out. Hear him out. I think because he agrees with me on this one thing, okay? Hear him out. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but hear him out. I'm on the left though. I left the left and the left left me. Taya shows up at least twice a week to tell you that you shouldn't vote for these people. And here's a bunch of left-wing policy reasons why. Here's why it works. Here's why, I could back all of it up. Burn the fucking witch. Fuck you. Like, you're fascists. You've fallen for fascists. What can I say? I don't know what to say. And I'm not someone who uses that word like lightly. I'm not some Twitter fool who turns around and calls everyone I don't like a fascist. I also have, like I said, I have good relationships across the political spectrum. I know people who've been MPs in conservative parties. We're good friends. I'm good friends with a lot of different people. I'm networked with a lot of people, business leaders, whatever. Okay, I'm sorry about the shaking. I'll deal with that. I'm saying this is the problem. And the fact that, but it's a cult. You're in a cult. I don't know what to tell you. If you've got a picture of Kelly J. Keane as your Facebook profile picture, you're in a cult. If you knee-jerk defend everything that she does, you're in a cult. If you attack someone like me, who has been a better ally in this whole fucking thing to everybody, and I've paused and I've taken the time and I've put in the work at my own expense, I've gained nothing. All you need to do is look at the numbers and the financials to see who's good faith and who isn't, because I keep going even though it costs me money, costs me everything, and I get very little fucking financial support. Okay, if the right were really about like this type of thing, they would have supported me long ago and not withdrawn their money like they did with me. They punished me for staying on the left. Okay, so anybody who actually was on the left, who is still on the left, okay, who's being paid by them and invited to things by them, isn't on the left, okay? They're there to tell you that the left isn't talking to you. It's the US. Okay, so the US media do this a lot when it comes to Russia and China and North Korea, which is that they'll find somebody who like left and that put them on TV if they're willing to talk shit about North Korea. It's like it's a propaganda trick where they will take somebody who claims to have Constantine is built his from trigonometry has done that whole shtick where I'm from Russia, it is bad there, it's terrible and grey, and it like feeds all of your biases about Russia. That's a known tactic for propaganda, right? But like in reality, all countries, all things are complex. Some are, worse than others. Some policies are worse than others. China's not a saint. China's authoritarian, but they do have some good things, some bad things. America, not all shit, lovely people, idiots, but lovely people, right? They mean well, but America is also, in terms of its process and living out loud, it's like there is an element of exceptionalism to it where it's like, well, is it going to, you can love things and hate things in equal measure and on a case-by-case basis. It's people, okay, same thing. You can love what they do and hate what they do and still love them as a person. There's complexity. If you're thinking that all things are all bad and all good, and if you think that libs of TikTok is your ally because they bully people, including teachers, including kids, okay, if you join the pylon, you're a bad person, okay? Now, I can explain why that happens, and I know why it happens, because basically it's called, hang on, there's so many, they all start with D, and the second, I'm getting a rant, and it's like, so you've got your de-individuation, okay, which means that you basically, when you're in a group, there is this tendency to, you become more violent and more prone to certain antisocial behaviors in a group, right? But also when you feel anonymous and unaccountable. And there's a number of different reasons for that, right? So first of all, you got that diffusion of responsibility, so that if you're in amongst a group and everyone else is doing it, you're not responsible, right? It's everyone. We're part of a group. So I can get away with it because people won't notice, okay? Because I'm just one of a number of different people. That's Twitter uses that. That diffusion of responsibility thing on Twitter is a big deal, right? Because, you're joining the pylon, Okay, I take, like, you know, I try not to do that unless there's somebody who can actually do it, right? But yeah, yeah, I'm not looking at your chats, Matt. Sorry, I can't. So there's lots of words and stuff. Lots of, because when I'm dealing with actual words, like, yeah. Anyway, but you've also got this, and this is just an ongoing thing, which is the disinhibition of the internet. Okay, so there's good disinhibition, which is, you know, that thing that came out of the blogging movement. And blogging and all that sort of stuff, where people were sharing their stories, and it was great. And, you know, I would say that I've largely benefited from this online the positive disinhibition, right? Which is where I, you know, all my friends were in it and I could be myself and all that sort of stuff. That's a really good thing. And the trans community particularly have benefited from that as well, okay? Which is that, you know, it is incredibly rare to be trans. You know, you're often, you know, up until, you know, it became sort of that, you know, TikTok trend, but, you know, up until recently, you know, trans people were isolated in their community, and they, you know, couldn't reach out. And, you know, the internet has had tremendous benefit for a lot of them, right? Because they're able to talk about their experiences. That also has a tendency to be abused and, you know, turn into a cult. Okay, because you're also, if you're sharing, you're also vulnerable. And you're making yourself vulnerable. Like, you know, every time I share on here or tweet or whatever, you make yourself vulnerable to some fucking, you know, sinister actor who's bookmarking or clipping or going to take you out of context or anything like that. It is an inherently brave thing to do this live stream, okay, and say things off the cuff, because, you know, everything that could be said that I could, you know, be taken out of context has already been said, so I could be fucked. And what it is there's an element of trust involved in that, right? Which is that I trust that people will do the right thing, and if something bad happens, that I can deal with it, right? But, you know, it's easy to be behind an anonymous account and not have any inhibitions, because you're very brave behind an anonymous account, okay? And that's why you can't really throw anything at me, because I know that I do things that others aren't brave enough to do, and therefore they have no opinion, okay? Other streamers, people who do what I do, you know, I take it as, you know, okay, well, are you a professional performer? Okay, well, good on you. I'm not that. I'm somebody who was scared of video and decided to try and do it. I'm quite happy. I have a strong sense of self-efficacy, because I know that I can overcome my barriers and overcome my fears, and I lean into that vulnerability rather than bully other people. I actually work on myself, and I'm quite happy to be vulnerable, because a lot of people can't be. So I am, and it's a brave thing to do. But you've also got, you know, this is just people in groups and online when you're like disinhibited, okay? But you've also got this toxic version of that, which is the trolling and harassment and all that sort of stuff, where you feel like you can just say whatever the fuck you want under the guise of anonymity. That's why I've never been anonymous. I've always said what I need to say, what I want to say, in public, online, come what may, okay? Well, that was very Australian, come what may. That it's been good for me so far. And with AI and all of that sort of stuff and bots, no one can accuse me of being a bot. I could accuse a lot of fucking gender critical anonymous accounts of being bots, right? And I reported a lot the last few days to get, because, you know, not because I think they're bots, but because if they're part of a bot net or an engagement pod, Twitter has access to the data to see if it is a coordinated attack, right? Or a coordinated like thing. Because if they come from the same place, if there's like, because Twitter can look at the referrer for the people that are reporting my stuff, and if it's a link that's off-site, or if it's something like Twitter has those insights, right? But that's why the far right don't like Twitter and they don't like tech, is because tech can see what they're fucking doing, and that's why the blue anons don't like it either, because tech can see what they're doing. But when they controlled Twitter, they could turn a blind eye to what they're doing, which is coordinating. But, you know, this is where this stuff, like, it's on, you can't focus on, like, things that are social. They're just part of our psychology, right? You got your lizard brain, your brain's melted, you're single issue, you're obsessed, you're in a cult. What does someone like me do? Okay, well, I can't. Well, if I fight back, I do fight back quite a bit, or push back, because I do that so that I can show people that they can push back. Okay? They don't have to just take it and they don't have to back down. And just because I was not taking it with people who were policing me over Jessica Yaniv doesn't mean I'm going to take it from you either. Okay? That's called being pro-democratic. Okay? People can say what they want and you shouldn't be allowed to harass people. They're different things. Harassment isn't freedom of speech. Okay? Hate speech is not free. I do, honestly, I like to, obviously, there's always a concern with hate speech laws that they will be abused. However, what I said about swearing it's like swearing in public or, the guano laws or all those sorts of things, right? They're not laws until they're enforced and there's an arrest made. Part of me wants to see someone fuck around and find out because I think that you'll find that you're fucking around and you're going to find out. Okay? And I want to see it because I don't behave that way. And you are doing hate speech. I think, honestly, part of me is like, well, if you're concerned about hate speech laws, without obviously, I'm talking about if you're just knee-jerking and not without knowing how laws are, enforced and managed and all that sort of stuff. If you're knee-jerking that, okay, hate speech laws are a mission statement, okay, but the details are left to the police and policing, okay. And hate speech is quite narrowly defined and that law will be tested. That's a good thing. That's the process. That's democracy. I want you to fuck around with me and find out. I want these people who oppose any law on speech to actually have to go through and defend it in court. I really do. I want them to have their day in court. That's it. Because I also think that the courts will say, that's hate speech, fucking stop it. Because I've also been on the receiving end of this stuff and I know that it's horrible. And I know friends who are no longer with us, who ended their lives over this stuff. It's not benign. Stop being horrible. And it's just, this gender critical shit is just one example of something that started out with a grain of truth to it, turned into a cult, and it was hijacked by authoritarians who cannot withstand or tolerate any kind of divergence from their worldview. And, it's very much linked to this idea that, here's another concept for you, the just world hypothesis, right? Which basically means that if you are in a position where you are receiving abuse or you are poor or there's a belief that the world is fair. Therefore, if something unfair happens to you, it's your fault, okay? This is how you rationalize these things when you're being cruel. This is the righteous cruelty that you are experiencing, which is that you feel justified to behave in a way that is cruel and upsetting for somebody else. Think about that. You're not justified in it. That's the thing, it's not your right to just ratio people and show up in their mentions. It's a privilege. These tools were built for greater participation. These tools were built for, people to make a living from. It's supposed to make the world a better place, and you make it garbage. Think about your role, not anyone else's role, not fucking someone else's role as an activist and content creator. Sorry. Thinking they're going to fucking fix things if you just throw them $5 more and buy a t-shirt. Think about what you're doing, your personal day. What are you doing? Are you spending your day harassing trans people? Why? Are you spending your day feeling hateful? Are you spending your day being angry? Are you spending your day doom scrolling? Are you actually contributing anything of substance or any kind of solution? The answer is no. I spend all day. Even when I'm tweeting, I'm always trying to think about what I can do to persuade and pull people back. I fucking hate that shit, but no one's showing up to do it. So I do my best with the resources that I have. I don't have any, okay? But fuck me. Because nobody's talking about the fucking responsibility of influencers. Nobody's talking about this stuff. They're only using it to recruit people into their little influencer cults. And some of them have a real fucking impact on people's lives. I can take it. And it pisses me off, obviously. It's not something I enjoy. No one healthy enjoys this conflict, okay? Nobody who is psychologically good isn't affected by this stuff, okay? You are hurting, so I just happen to be resilient. It doesn't mean I enjoy it. It means I'm resilient. They're different fucking things. But there's a lot of people who are not. And you're going after them on a daily basis, and I hope that you fuck around and I hope you find out one day. Because you deserve it. The internet was not built for you. It was built for me and people like me who want to make the world a better place. To coin Silicon Valley term, we were supposed to make it better. You're making it worse. You're making it garbage. Think about your own behaviour and what you put out into the world. Do you really think that Nazis showing up, whether you denounce them or not, is a good fucking thing? Freedom of speech. Fuck off. That's not your answer. It's not your answer. It's single issue politics that leads people in a predictable direction, which is fascism. Read about it. Learn about it. Don't just straw man that everyone, the left left you and everyone's calling me a Nazi. Why is that? No one's called me a Nazi in years. Okay? That bothered me. Someone called me a bigot and a TERF and a fucking fascist, and I was bothered by it. To the point where I actually spent years trying to figure out if it was true. What have you done? Monetized it. Go fuck yourselves. Anyway, that's me. I'm going to go. Oh, hi, Rohit. Hi, Rohit. Long time. I've done my rant. Okay, now I can look at the chat. How you doing? We'll talk. Yeah. But like, seriously, this stuff is not benign anymore. It's not content. And this is the thing is, that, you know, as much as I say, this is just Twitter. It's not just Twitter either, because it actually does trickle through Twitter, and it does, you know, or X or whatever the fuck, or X. And I'm going to call it Twitter to the day I die. I'm trying to get hold of some merch. I want to get hold of some of the bird stuff. I'm not doing well. I don't like change. Oh gosh. Anyway, but I'll deal with the shaking. I need to attach it. Because I need to attach it to something that isn't my desk, because I'm like emphatic. No, but I know I say that it's just Twitter, but it's not just Twitter, because you see it and it comes through and it's like the media is extremely powerful, okay? The fact that these people, you know, I'm working on another essay. I've actually got 7 on the go at the moment, and I don't have time to do it. At some point when I've got to focus on getting the actual website experience done, so then I can monetize the content, so then I can make enough to make money, so then I can prioritize writing. You see how it sort of, you know, I appreciate it, but you know, it's slow going because I'm just, you know, bootstrapping the whole thing. However, I can do a lot with a little. Like, this is just my phone and a different computer, so you know, like, obviously I have the technical capability to take care of things, but it's slow going. But I'm working on an essay at the moment, and I don't know, it might actually be a pre-recorded video as well, because I need to do more of those sort of 10-15 minute things, which is the lies that they tell the left, the lies that they tell you when you sort of like, you know, like that the left is, you know, not talking about certain things, that you know, just certain things, right? Just those sort of myths that I fell for when I kind of was like, someone called me a bigot online for defending this thing on speech and censorship, and saying, okay, it was a platform manipulation thing. It was really just like, hey guys, there's a problem here. with this tech that, you know, you got a blind spot. I had a blind spot. I'm here to tell you, and then like and bigot to fucking all that shit. And I was like, am I? Fucking what? Okay. No. Back to the books, back to basics. No, this is I'm correct. Okay. And I didn't just read stuff that I went in, like I said, I worked with these guys and I saw for myself. Okay. It wasn't just like reading stuff. It was actually, I saw for myself. I interacted with them. I learned about their motives. I talked to them, you know, all that sort of stuff. And they're liars. And they tell these certain things. Okay. They magnify the fact, you know, the college campus stuff. They overblow that stuff. You know, they lie about the fact that the left aren't talking about certain things. They misrepresent the fact that people can be cancelled for nothing. It's like, well, no, that's not really true. It's also just corporate HR being fucking, you know, it comes down to liability and risk and all that sort of stuff. And that's why I sort of, you know, obviously doing the Juris Doctor is now sort of where I'm at, because I feel like the legal process is where, well, definitely where the crazies end up. Every internet crazy that you know ends up in the court. They've all got cases at the moment. It's fucking funny. Like, you go and you read the fucking stuff, and it's like, even in the US District Court, everyone is suing Twitter at the moment. And I've said that I think that a lot of the change to X is actually phoenixing the company, but you know. So that's interesting, but it's just because of all the lawsuits. If you're watching sort of, you know, where things are at, policy and regulation and like, you know, all those things wise, you go, oh, it makes more sense. Oh, okay, makes more sense. Like a few lawyers that I know who work in corporate law, and I was like, is he phoenixing this thing? And they go, oh, he's a fucking, that's smart. And they're like, oh, that's smart. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. If I was his in-house counsel, I'd go, okay, so what he's doing, because he has to publicly make it look like the company is garbage, and it wasn't that because you can't just take the company and then go, oh, and practice business as usual with a new name and avoid your liabilities. But if you look like you're running it to the ground, and if you look like it's dead, and you look like it's fucking was already bankrupt, you have more of a case. Again, this is a case, again, because you've got the resources to go through courts for years and years and years. Musk eventually wins these things, right? It's funny, actually. And it's a whole other area. But this is the strategy, which is he just tries his luck, and it takes years. And also, if like the employee, I mean, again, I don't necessarily agree. The law isn't about ethics. The law is about the law. And from a law point of view, I'm like, fucking go for it. It's funny, but it's actually quite clever. But he has to, like, you know, create the illusion that the company failed and that X acquired the company from the ashes. So therefore, Twitter was insolvent, and sort of, you know, you've got to prove that, right? Beyond, you know, well, not even reasonable doubt, just probabilities, right? So that's where it's funny. It's funny. Actually, no, it might actually be beyond a reasonable doubt. No, so what they have to do, so if it's criminal in the US, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended to phoenix the company. So what he does is he creates that reasonable doubt ahead of time, and he phoenixes the company to get out of his liabilities. Again, this is very simple. Like, this stuff is years and years. I'm not Dunning-Krugering the law. I'm just saying, it's just, I asked my lawyer friends, and I'm like, what's he doing? Like, oh, he's fucking smart. He's putting that plausible deniability in, so it's just fucking interesting. Anyway, that's probably an area where I might start doing a bit more coverage, because not many people, you know, I just watch the courts. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So Matt said, imagine the tax breaks on losing that much in value and profit in a year. Exactly. So if you roll, it's quite clever. Like, and it's actually, okay. I have to, so this is why you can't be an ideologue, and you have to be able to shift lenses. In terms of like structural analysis, if your socialism isn't about analysing the failures and weak spots of the market, not blaming capitalism like Ooga Booga Man, that's not how it works. Socialists invented the word capitalism to describe an orientation towards profit seeking. Socialism describes a prioritization of people and social outcomes. There's still a market. There's still laws of supply and demand and all that sort of shit. And that can be gamed, all that sort of stuff, right? It's just that capitalism is rigged in a certain direction, and it needs sort of gates around it. And that's why we're seeing the failures that we're seeing now, because people think that you can uncapitalism capitalism, because they think that people's brains are fucking confused. But anyway, it's like they're completely wholly, this is your brain on 100 years of United States like propaganda, right? So they just don't know what Marx said. They just don't know the theory. They don't know. They don't understand the basics, which is fascinating, because that was the big revelation for me, was that realization they don't fucking know anything. They use words in ways that like they even mean the opposite to what everything. It's like sometimes we'll be watching some stuff, much to Paul's chagrin, and he'll be like, and I'll go, that's some fucking North Korea shit. The way that they just talk about, like, they just make a statement and it's like a mainstream. It's like, that's North Korea fucking levels of like bullshit. Like Matt is in the US at the moment. And I imagine like that must be a bit of a head fuck, where you sort of, you'll go on these little landmines where, I mean, you probably don't talk much about politics, but it is like a slightly sort of, it's like quantum leap. Where you're kind of in this world where things are just slightly fucked up and slightly different, and the words mean slightly different things. I think people underestimate that, just because we speak English, America, we are speaking different languages a lot of the time, and I think that's where a lot of the misunderstandings come, which is you say you're a socialist and they have an allergic reaction to that because it's hundreds of years. It's like, no, like that's just like common sense shit. It's nothing to be scared of. It's crazy. I mean, obviously the internet, obviously the internet has enabled more awareness, but people aren't seeing. But that's why there's this war on the internet. At the end of the day, it's not to fight hate speech per se. It's to control the milieu, and that's another thing that cults do, is control the range of information that you have access to, right? And that's what I mean. Capitalism only thrives and succeeds. And when I say capitalism, I mean I don't mean markets. I mean the bullshit, as in the capitalist structure, right? Orienting to prioritizing profit over everything and shareholder value over everything. Like you'll see Coles and Woolworths made profits during when inflation is high and people can't afford food. And it's like, well, that's capitalism, because they prioritize shareholder value over the well-being of people. Socialist analysis would say, well, you could actually take fewer profits and, for the betterment, but they don't. Right? Because they've got an imperative to, they've got a responsibility. The regulatory environment and all of those things, the law and society and all that stuff is oriented towards shareholder value rather than the well-being of people. Now, the big lie is that you can have both of those things and compromise. That's stakeholder capitalism bullshit and ESG bullshit, right? But it's not. It doesn't work that way. That's where government regulation has to come in, and that's where, when you look at like FDR with the price freezing back in the Depression in the US, that was one of those things that, basically, pulled them out of inflation, was saying, if you raise prices, I'll put you in jail, right? That's what I did. That could be perceived as authoritarian, but it's also just a lever that can be pulled to pull, like that. Anybody who believes in a compromise between socialism and capitalism, okay, would support the government pulling a lever like that in an inflationary time, okay, which is price freezes, because corporations will gouge people, okay. And again, the argument is that anyway, I've gone off on a thing, right? But I'm just saying that a lot of it is just trying to reach the individual. Like for me, I could go, did you know that capitalism was invented by socialism as a way to analyze things? So they're two different schools of thought, okay? So we're both Christians, okay? Baptist, Catholic. Prioritize different things. That's how you should be looking at things like socialism and capitalism if you're actually doing sort of good faith analysis. It's not cults, it's not tribes, it's not for or against. And that's another thing with America, is that like this, actually I'm going to do a stream on this. There's this the whole industry dedicated to debate clubs and shit like that, and it's like they're all just for or against, argument, counter argument, and it's like, well, no, like that, and they've turned it into like a team sport. So you can see how YouTube is, and on online in particular, online discourse is dominated by that kind of stuff, because it's a big cultural difference. Whereas Australians will sit around and talk around a beer and get over their political differences. America is very much about adversarial a confrontation. And confrontation is entertainment, from the ground up, right? You got to win friends and devour people whole. Yeah. And that's why I also won't go into these debates, okay? So I won't debate people because, first of all, it's not my disposition. Like, I know that I'd look like a mess up against someone who's bullying me, right? And it is effectively who can bully the person, who can humiliate somebody. It's like, no, things are more complicated than that. And I'm not, and the thing is that the whole premise around Debate Club is the idea that your opposition is wrong and you are right. I prefer to go, well, we've both got different points of view and there's some synergy and everyone's got blind spots. So there's no point having a debate on the premise of for or against, because usually it's more about consensus and trying to find something that everyone is happy with. So a principle of consensus is it's not one person, it's not zero sum, it's actually like consensus, right? Consensus decision making. And that was one thing with the Greens that I used to be involved with. And that was one thing that I really liked about the Greens. I mean, they've gone off the rails now. They're basically like fucking, tree Tories, right? But now I'm back to my roots. It's really, Labor, unions, Labor, prioritising social programs, my fundamental type of grassroots stuff. But, Greens was very much about the consensus model was really useful. Okay, but also a lot of our politics and political system is built on consensus, whereas in the United States it's not. It's quite adversarial, okay? But in theory, when you're doing an amendment to a bill, that should be building consensus, but really it's not anymore. But you'd spend 6, 7, 8 hours trying to come to consensus, but you'd have to have consent. Everyone would have to agree that this was okay. People might not be happy with it, 100%. But, anyway, that goes back to my use of pronouns, which is, there's consensus there. That's my consensus is that it's in line with my values to be nice to people. Dylan Mulvaney did fuck all to me. And even if she did, and if anything, has been quite an inspiring person and you could learn a thing or two. Again, I think that they hate Dylan Mulvaney because they hate the fact that she's happy. They can't stand it. They don't like happy people, right? These daily, they don't like it. Okay. They don't like, They don't like people who are free of them. This is the whole thing. Again, that whole anti-feminist stuff, right? A lot of their worldview. If you think about, again, I'm going to go delve, not too dark, but, deep down it comes from an insecure place of wanting to keep someone caged because you're not confident that they'd love you if you didn't. Okay, that's dark, but I want someone who loves me, and I'm thankfully very lucky to have someone who does, who is there of their own free will, not because of your, keeping them caged, right? And that kind of permeates. It comes down to a deep insecurity, right? There is nothing better than a marriage where two people want to be together. It's and are free, and a lot of people don't like that. And I think that's another reason. I think that's another reason why, again, not to delve too deeply into why, the gay marriage thing and why that's so threatening to people. It comes down to that, which is two people who, they have to sort of go, oh, it's for tax purposes or for, there has to be a reason. It's like, well, no, what if two people just really want to be together? And I think maybe that goes deep for people because a lot of people are in things they don't want to be in. And so I try to be, with my work or my life, I spent too long pleasing people and doing what other people wanted me to do and say what other people wanted me to say. And I was really unhappy. But now I don't have money and I don't have anything really, professionally going on anymore. But, other than, what I'm working on and, that whole lawyer thing. But, it's, I'm happy. I'm stressed, but I'm happy because I'm in a thing where I'm free, right, of constraints. I do what I want to do. And thank you, Matt. It would be nice if, thank you for the computer and stuff. But, I'll get there. But it's just, but we live in a society for tax purposes. But I don't oppose paying tax either. I think that it's I'm bad at admin, so I'm behind on my tax. But I can't say too much about this because it's a sort of no-go zone. But if people paid more tax, billionaires paid more tax, we wouldn't need half of the shit. It would be sorted. Okay. But anyway, I'm going to go. I've been too long. I said I was going to keep it under an hour, but I did keep the substance under an hour at least. So that's good. Hopefully the desk is gone. Again, every stream when I change tech is a test. The sound will be adjusted, and obviously I need something that'll stop the desk shaking or not doing that. Yeah, I just need Stream Elements. I don't know how to get rid of it. It's just driving me nuts, but I'll try to figure it out. Anyway, I'm going to go. I've got stuff to do. I love you. Thanks for watching. What are the words? Become a patron, all that stuff. There's no links or anything because I had to restart my router 3 minutes before and I didn't have time to do that to get the network drive. Fucking, yeah, new tech drives me nuts. I'll be back probably Thursday because I'm going to talk about stuff. Okay. All right. But I'm actually starting to record. The reason why I set this whole thing up was so that I could record all the course stuff because no one, I want to be comfortable and stuff. And it's just easier to record it right as I write it, like at my desk rather than set up all the other things. But anyway, and I'm going to start production. After I've got a whole bank I've got criminal law and I've got my assignments due early next week. So, but I've got to study. But after that, I'm on the production pipe for User Story Hour. So you'll be getting a call from me. So anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. See you Thursday with graphics and stuff and theme music. Hope you like my theme music. Okay. Thanks, Matt. You're a legend, and thanks, Rohit, if you're still here. Long time no chat. Ping me. Okay. Bye. Oh, the chat works there. Fucking hell. Do 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 music 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 bye music music. Okay. Bye. Do 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 do.